It's time to have the Real Convo, a show that brings hope and awareness to those affected by suicide and mental health. As someone who is affected by both, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Southeast Florida board member Alan Mednick breaks the stigma with his mission that no one ever feels alone. With the help of influential guests in the community, the Real Convo starts now.
Hello, welcome to RealConvo. I'm Alan Mednick with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention board member. And this show today is actually going to be a two-part show. We have first part airing today and the next part airing next Saturday. And it's a show that I've been wanting to do for a long time. We haven't touched this topic yet. But this past week being Transgender Day of Remembrance, we're going to get into the topic of the LGBTQ and mental health and suicide prevention. I'm so excited today to have Compass Community Center in to help us with this show. But first, I want to thank our sponsors. We have Clarity Health Solutions and Business Services for You. And as always, I really appreciate Jen Hoskin-Tomko coming in from Clarity Health Solutions.
Thanks, Alan.
Well, I'm going to need your help with this show. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is. And we have today Julia Murphy, who is the Chief Development Officer from Compass Community Center. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
We have, like I said, we have a lot to talk about here. And we also have Michael Riordan, who is the Marketing and Communications Director from Compass Community Center. So welcome to come in today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, I appreciate it. So let me just get into first, Julia, what is Compass Community Center?
So Compass has been around for 31 years, and we are in Lake Worth, and we've moved around to different locations. And our mission is to engage, empower, enrich the lives of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community, and also to impact those with HIV and AIDS.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about the process. Is it just a building that people come in, you do counseling there?
We do many things, and to explain it in 1 minute would be so difficult, but I'll do my best. So when we began our organization, we started as a Stop AIDS project. So the first goal was to address the needs of the people that are impacted by HIV and AIDS. So how we do that is through medical services. We direct them to providers, medication, transportation, food services, and a big thing now is getting them health insurance. So the government doesn't have to actually pay for the insurance. We can get them to Affordable Care Act, and then we'll pay the premiums and the copays. So that's our medical part of our...
So how do you do that? How do you get them health insurance? You apply for them? You do the work for them? Or do you have a special program?
So all of our case managers are certified to do the applications for their health insurance. So now with the, people call it Obamacare, but it's really the Affordable Care Act, everyone's eligible for health insurance. So you go online, there's no pre-existing conditions anymore clause, so everyone's eligible.
Right.
Now the premiums are probably too expensive, so then we're able to help fund the premiums and the copays, and we do that through many things, so grants, and then also we just had our Smart Ride, which is 165 miles from Miami to Key West.
What kind of ride?
Bicycle ride, yeah.
Oh, you have to tell me about that.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about that too.
I used to do 100-mile bike rides all the time.
Oh, well, we're getting you next November. We just did our
I just bought my new bike. I just
awesome.
bought one because there's the Dolphin Challenge that I wanted to do the Century Ride for. So I have another one I got to start warming up for
next year.
Next November 20th and 21st.
Not to get off the subject,
Yeah,
but that's really important.
So, Smart Ride's really influential for our county right now because we've been a part of it for 4 years and previous when it first began. But that funding, we were able to raise $150,000 last year.
Wow.
And all that money goes right back to HIV and AIDS services. So people don't realize the importance and the need that there still is around the HIV and AIDS, I would say, care. And then outside of just the direct service, so before you become HIV positive, we're doing the testing. So we're out in the community, anywhere you can think of, the colleges, health fairs, the bars. So we're doing HIV prevention testing. So that's really a simple test. It's a finger prick, and your results come back in 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And if it's a reactive, then we'll do a blood draw, and we'll have your your result within 24 hours.
So that's what the community that's what the center started for.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
31 years.
Okay, so you're going back to the 80s?
Yeah, 1988.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I talk about it a lot because I remember, in the 80s, AIDS was basically the big stigma back then.
And a death sentence.
And yeah, everybody thought it was a death sentence. I remember if somebody had AIDS and you were in the room with them, you thought that you would catch it by just having them breathe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was just, so I always say, I relate AIDS to mental health and suicide because that was the stigma then. This is the stigma now. And I always say, if we could break that stigma on AIDS, I mean, you could go up to somebody with AIDS and hug them, kiss them, whatever. Obviously there's some questions you got to take, but for the most part, we're very knowledgeable on it.
Yeah.
And even with HIV, it could get untraceable now. So that's my hope for suicide and depression, for people to understand that we can get there.
Well, I think that we've done a lot of work around HIV and AIDS, but there's a lot more to be done. And I think that there's a larger conversation because they know that you're not going to contract it from being around somebody. But the stigma that still comes with being HIV positive is huge. And most of our clients or community members are in some type of mental health services to help address that, especially a newly diagnosed person. Finding out that news is never easy. And there's a lot of things that come along with it. It's not that you're just going to live a healthy life. Those medications are hard on your body as well. So you can live a better life, sure. But it's not, I think, people just forget about it because people aren't dropping dead every day. But it's still something that's really important to have a conversation. And I think in certain communities, if you are HIV positive, you can be shunned out and nobody wants to know. So I believe that in communities of color, HIV and AIDS is still very stigmatized and ostracized in that way as well. And we can even, when we go into our Transgender Day of Remembrance conversation, people are still getting murdered and killed. And it may not be something that everybody else is talking about, but in our community, it's very prevalent. And it's something that somebody we've known or somebody that's a friend of is being murdered or killed. And that also is in line with HIV and AIDS. Those things are correlating.
So I want to get a little bit more into Compass because I never heard of Compass before. And I had a call. Like I tell people, I get calls every day for people asking me for help for certain situations. I had a call a couple of weeks ago where someone knew somebody, the child was transgender and suicidal, and they didn't know where to go and what to do.
Come to us.
I wish I knew that. And actually, I'm going to reach out to them now and let them know your number. But do you have counseling there? Do you have people that come and just sit around and want to talk?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more.
So outside the HIV and AIDS thing, in 1992, we started our youth services. So we serve anywhere from age 3 to 29, and depending on the day of the week. So we have individual therapy and we have group therapy. But we also have social support services because we know for our kids, their peers are really most crucial in their lives. So finding youth that are like you and accepting is super important. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we have either group or individual kind of therapy. And outside of that, we have where the kids can come and hang out. They have their own drop-in center. They have games. They have computers. They have their own space to just be themselves. And I think a lot of our community members really thought that was important because when they were growing up, they didn't have a space to go. And it's not the bar scene anymore. You have somewhere else to go. So on a day-to-day basis, there is a staff member there that they can hang out with and talk to and figure out what's going on. They have access to really anything that they need. And then there's also the supportive services. So we have probably like 20 to 30 kids each week come in. Sometimes it's bigger. And then they do a lot of activities outside of just that. And that is purposing to socialize them in different areas. So they have an equality prom. So they have their own prom that we started 7 years ago. Yeah, they got a lot of stuff. We have a lavender graduation. They have a lock-in, so they come in one night right before school starts and they sleep over the whole night.
So you have accommodations for them too.
Yeah. So then we're doing a youth holiday dinner coming this December. So where a lot of our youth's families are not accepting if they're transgender, we are their second family. So we are going to have a meal with them, and we have a donors donating the dinner and gifts
amazing.
for each of the kids. Oh yeah.
So let me ask you this, kids. I know when kids are starting to realize they might have problem talking to people, they might have problem talking to their parents, friends. Can they just come to you, or do they need permission from their parents? And is it anonymous?
Yes, they can just come to us. It is anonymous. We're not doing anything outside of the realm of just providing support services. If we were to take a field trip or do something that is out of the norm of just the conversation,
they would need a
permission slip. And we don't take photos of them without that either. So really, if they just want to come and check Compass out and talk to us, they can do that.
But if somebody is confused or they're not sure how to handle it, they're afraid to talk to somebody because they might be ostracized, they think.
Yeah.
They could just come and talk to you.
They can just come to us.
So is it a counseling session you would have with them or just a regular talk?
So we would assess to see what their needs are. So if they needed more extensive therapy, we have that as well. So we have 2 on-site therapists that come in to provide one-on-one and group therapy for them.
And do you have a crisis center there too for people that are suicidal?
We
or is
don't.
that something we go to 211?
We use 211 for that. So we partner with 211. And that's the thing I think is important around conversations like this, the collaboration and how the organizations work together. So 201 is that first step, and then the Trevor Project, which they would probably refer to them as well.
Which I was talking to Mike. That's who I actually referred the that family out with the transgender person that was
Yeah.
suicidal. I
And they're
gave them the
extraordinary.
transgender. Yeah, they are. I met them up in D.C. when I was up there for the Capitol Advocacy Day, and amazing people there. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Jen.
I've actually been to Compass. I went there. I was doing AIDS, HIV testing and education for a couple of rehab centers, and it was great, and I loved
Thank
it.
you.
But I walked into Compass, and I have to tell you, I didn't know what to expect as far as like, because the outside looks like kind of like, just a regular building.
building, yeah.
And then you walk in, and it's like, oh, like it's so pretty in there.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed, and I was like, this feels like somewhere I want to be. Like it seems so welcoming. And I really appreciated that. And I have referred several people over to Compass who have come to me, who to me, like I feel like I can do individual work, but I don't have the group atmosphere. And I feel like that's essential. And the fact that you do all these community events and you're, creating these events so that people can actually be who they are without shame and just celebrating who they are, I think is really amazing. So the group process for me is essential in really being able to be comfortable in your own skin. So I love that you guys have that.
Yeah, when we started our therapy services for our youth about 2 years ago, and when we were talking about the process, we've always done the social support. So there has been a group and individual with our staff members, but we really saw a bigger need, and it has gone. I mean, we're continuously looking for funding. I know that's not this conversation, but there is so much need out there for therapy, and really to hire great therapists. And I think that people being understanding and really knowing how to work with the LGBT community is a difficult process. So one other thing we've been doing is we have a mental health therapist that oversees really a lot of our mental health department. So that person oversees our HIV and AIDS area. So anyone that comes in that needs service can get it. But we've also started a monthly group where other mental health therapists can come in, and there's education and there's connection. So we're helping train and give information to therapists. So it's not just all Compass, right? We want people in the community to be able to not hurt people. We want them to be able to help them. And sometimes we've seen where therapists just weren't knowledgeable enough, and they've done more harm than, really better.
And that's what topic I want to get into. And I do want to get into funding for you, because we want to make sure that you guys survive and that you can help all the people. But I want to get to Michael. Now, Michael, you're the marketing and communication director.
Yes.
And you're also a trans woman.
I am.
Okay. And so
And I
want
know I sound super fishy, but and that's the term we use to describe somebody who's feminine. But I know the voice.
So if we could talk on that realm a little bit, because I want to get a little background on Compass in general. Can we talk about your background when you realized that you wanted to be a trans woman, and the process you took?
Sure. Well, I think the thing to understand is that I didn't want to be a trans woman. I just wanted to be a woman. And I knew from a very young age that something was different about me. I don't know how I knew it was different. I just did. When I was around 10, I tried to express to my mother, hey, something's not right here. And her reaction at the time, I'm 41. And
I was going to say around what age, because I didn't want to say it directly.
I know. I'm 41. And, when I was 10, you're looking at 31 years ago, there wasn't the information that there is now. There wasn't. The internet didn't exist like it does now. I remember going to the internet, you type in something, you go and you make dinner and you come back and it's the page you wanted was there, and then you click on another link and you do the same thing. And, so like there just wasn't this wealth of information. So I tell my mother, what was going on, and she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say. She said, oh, talk to your friends. I had a group of really good guy friends who I'm still very good friends with. And I just knew that wasn't a conversation I was going to have with them, like, hey guys, you want boobs too? Like it doesn't, it's not like, most conversations don't naturally go there.
So it must have been a real struggle for you.
Well, it was, but at the time, again, because there wasn't a lot of information, I just didn't know. And puberty makes it more difficult, and a lot of trans people find that. And that's why when you have youth that are going through puberty, that's when some of these feelings and they start to express them, because your body is literally changing, and it's changing in a way that it shouldn't, for your mind, it shouldn't be like this.
Right.
And that can be very problematic and very stressful and produce anxiety and all
there's
kinds
all
of
sorts
things.
of identity conflicts when you're not struggling with the identity thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
and-
with the gender issues.
I say that all the time. You know, we do a lot of cultural competency trainings, and we'll go out to organizations and we'll talk about these issues, and we have a whole presentation. And that's one of the things that I say, you know, like, because trying to describe to somebody what it's like to feel like you're in the wrong gender is really difficult unless somebody is actually experiencing that themselves. But I say to people all the time, like, think about parts of your body that you're not happy with and that cause you pain or discomfort or anxiety when you're out in public.
Yeah.
And, you know, that helps them understand a little bit better, but it doesn't get us all the way there.
One
Now-
of my clients described it to me that that he felt like he was in a full bodysuit and he just wanted to zip the whole thing off.
Yeah.
And he felt like it was just like it wasn't what he belonged in.
The way that I love that. And, you know, almost that gives the idea of like a chrysalis or a cocoon, you know, and then, you know, but for me, I describe it like it was an itchy sweater that I could never take off. And it was right up against my skin. And I wore it all the time. You can't take it off. And just, you know, that feeling and that discomfort. And imagine just going out and doing everything with that sweater on. You know, how distracting that becomes and how problematic that becomes. And then, you know, one day I realized that I could take it off, but it took me 37 years to get there, you know.
And at that time, was there anybody that you felt comfortable talking to when you were
No.
younger?
No, there wasn't.
So
There
you
wasn't.
kept
I
it
didn't
inside.
have a
Did you keep it
compass.
inside you the whole time?
Oh yeah, the whole time. And for me, you know, a lot of people don't understand that sexual orientation, which is who, you know, you're attracted to, and gender identity are two different things. They really are. They have less to do with each other than people realize. But I was attracted to women, not men. And the one trans woman I saw in like a current affair, I think it was, you know, was attracted to men. And, you know, when she became a woman, and I looked at that and I was like, well, that's not me. You know, that's not what I'm experiencing. So maybe this is just a phase, or this is temporary, or this is going to go away as I grow older. And when I was younger, I had that hope that it would. And then as I got older and older, it didn't go away. And, you know,
and that'll
it's-
lead us into another topic in a
Sure.
second.
Yeah.
But I do have to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I admire your courage, and you know, people like yourself are leading the way for a lot of the younger generation, because I'm sure when you were younger, you would never be able to come on. Back in the 80s, you wouldn't be able to come on the radio and talk about this.
No.
You know, even in the
Yeah.
90s.
That's
I mean,
right. It's
thank God
something
it's
to
for
celebrate.
people.
Yeah.
You know, thank God for people like Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner,
Yep.
who, you know, were able to do this to lead way. But it's people like yourself that are going to make it so much easier for the next generation. And it'll help mental health. It'll help suicide. And it's just going to help the generations in general to really come together.
Well, thank you for saying that. I've, you know, a lot of trans people, we get the courage thing a lot. And I'll tell you, a lot of us don't feel that. It was survival that put us into, and, you know, today we're going to be talking about suicide. And I think it's important to understand that you're at a point, you know, for a lot of us, for many of us, where it just, you know, you can't go on the way that you have been going on, and a decision is made. And that's a split, depending on, you know, who you're talking to, which way they go. So like I say, you know, I appreciate the courage thing. And I think I'm just saying this, I'm clarifying this because I think it's important for anybody listening to understand that it's, you know, if I was drowning and somebody threw me a life preserver, I don't think that I'm courageous for grabbing onto that life preserver. You know what I mean?
And I respect and I totally get what you're saying. But in the spirit of suicide prevention, I think that continuing to work really hard toward a healthier self without taking the route of taking your life. I think in that scenario, I get, you know, people with depression, anxiety, or whatever just you know, disorder they're dealing with at that time, that they are really brave for continuing to try to find ways around that the issue that they're having.
And I understand that. Yeah, and I'm not saying that.
I know. I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm just saying, like, I just want to make sure.
But it's an important distinction because I don't want anybody listening to feel like I'm saying you're not brave for dealing with these issues either. I'm just saying that when, for anybody out there who's not trans, when you hear that, a lot of us don't feel brave. It really is. It's an issue of survival for us.
Yeah,
well,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me because of my daughter passing that what I'm doing is great. And I look at it. We spoke about this before. Yeah. It's as much therapy for me as trying to help other people too. And I know we spoke that's the same thing for you. That's why you got into working with Compass, because it really helps other people, but it's therapy for yourself too. Mm-hmm. So we have going back to. Again, the 80s. Mm-hmm. I remember walking in the streets. I grew up in New Jersey. We used to go to New York a lot and watching the first two guys holding hands. And, it was like shocking to me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, two guys holding hands, and because that's the way we grew up. Mm-hmm. And there was a stigma behind that. Mm-hmm. The more I think about it now, and it's like, do you have a brain?
Do I have a brain? Yeah. I'd like to think so.
Okay, I have a brain. Do you have a heart?
Sometimes.
Do you have a heart?
I do.
I have a heart. Do you have bones?
I do.
Okay. Do you get? I got bones too. Do you get sick?
I get where you're going.
We're
I have it
all
all.
Same. There's no difference between the way it's just like I was saying. My brother. We have the same blood, the same DNA, whatever it is. And he's a Jet fan, and I'm a Dolphin fan. He's a Yankee fan, and I'm a Met fan.
We have I'm a Patriots fan.
Okay, there we go. I know you're from Massachusetts, but we have the same, and we think differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's the same concept here. Yeah. So Julia, when you go and you talk to people, how does it come out? I mean, do you go around and actually talk to the people yourself that come in, or?
So right now, currently, my position has shifted. So I oversee a lot of our day-to-day activities. I really manage our directors. I do all of our fundraising, so anything the community needs. But yeah, if I needed to, sure. Most times, depending on who the person is and what their need is, we have a staff on site that can handle it. So there's always a prevention person there. If there's somebody with testing or newly diagnosed, maybe we didn't diagnose them, somebody that's needing access to services. If there's a youth, we always have a staff member. And if our staff isn't there, I always would step in and help. And my background's in social work, so it's really innate for me to do that, to be honest. I sometimes have to hold myself back in order to help our team grow and knowing how to address things. I would say I'm definitely qualified in crisis management, and anything that they need, I could handle, but I want to teach them and help them grow their skill set on how to handle these situations and really evolve, because there's a lot that happens, and it seems like everything we deal with LGBT, it's not, though. We're in Lake Worth. We're in the epicenter of the opioid epidemic. And there's a lot of things from community areas that come into our center, people that walk in day to day that have needs that maybe not even be to do with LGBTQ, because we're not advertising outside our building because we want it to be a safe space. So you don't even know that we're a gay center until you really walk in. Yeah. And then it's maybe you are, maybe you're not. And that's the concept around it, is to feel safe no matter what. And what used to happen is people's parents used to drop them off and they weren't really wanting them to be in a gay space. So if they didn't know it was gay, they were just dropping out of the center, that's fine. So it's really an approach that we take to, it's not being undercover, it's being safe. It's making sure people have a space to go. So what I would say, anytime somebody walks in, we have 2 front desk staff members or a volunteer that helps handle any situation that's going on, and then they'll get the person that is needed to help with that. And lots of times if it's crisis, I'll help handle it.
Yeah. And I'd like to just say something very quickly. Julia has made it clear and to us and everybody that works there that you don't know why that person walked through the front door, whether it's to get out of the heat or because they're really struggling with something. And it's important for them to be met by somebody. And so she's right, the staff responds. So if it's taking you courage, or if it's taking you something to come in there, you don't know what you're going to find. You're going to find somebody who's going to listen.
Well, that's great. So unfortunately, we have to wrap up this week, but we're going to be continuing this conversation. We're here with Compass Community Center with Julia Murphy and Michael Riordan. Next week, we're going to get a little bit more into, what goes on with the people that you work with, a little bit more of how we could help, the people with mental health and suicide and how that plays a role into it. What is your contact number so people could call you?
So it's 561-533-9699. And our website is Compass, COMPASSGLCC.com.
So again, if you're in crisis, call the 1-800-273-TALK number, or you always could call 211. I want to thank Jen again for coming in from Clarity Health Solutions.
Thank you.
And have a great day and have a great week.
And that's a Real Convo, bringing hope and awareness to those affected by suicide and mental health. Tune in next Saturday at noon to the Real Convo. Business Services for You LLC is a full-service accounting and financial services firm. Their goal is to provide value to each of their clients by identifying their individual needs and goals. Each client, whether an individual or a business, is given the close personal attention they deserve. They hold their services out as fiduciaries, always acting in their client's best interest. Their staff has over 120 years of combined experience in accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, tax, and financial consulting services. Let them show you what they can do for you by contacting them for a free consultation at 561-376-2564 or info@bizsvc4u.com.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I just left psychotherapy.
Oh, wow. You are in psychotherapy? But you seem so put together.
Ha, thanks. But that takes work. So I go to Clarity Health Solutions in Jupiter. Just walking through the door feels like a retreat. When I'm feeling nervous, angry, sad, or overwhelmed, I can always see my psychotherapist for unbiased feedback, healthy support, and skill building.
Clarity Health Solutions in Jupiter has a great atmosphere, caring staff, and seasoned clinicians, and even a psychiatrist. They believe that therapy is an investment for the future, and they cherish being a part of your journey. So, grow with Clarity. You can call them at 561-781-3333 or book an appointment at clarityhealthfl.com.
It's time to have the Real Convo, a show that brings hope and awareness to those affected by suicide and mental health. As someone who is affected by both, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Southeast Florida board member Alan Mednick breaks the stigma with his mission that no one ever feels alone. With the help of influential guests in the community, the Real Convo starts now.
Welcome to Real Convo. This is Alan Mednick, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention board member, and we're going to continue our conversation. Last week we had Compass Community Center on, Julia Murphy and Michael Riordan, and we're going to continue the conversation and get a little bit more into depth. Last week we just did a little bit of a background on the formation of Compass and what they do with the LGBTQ community. So again, I want to thank our sponsors for allowing us to do this, Clarity Health Solutions and Business Services for You. And welcome back, Jen Hoskin-Tomko from Clarity.
Thank you.
You bring so much to the show. I really appreciate it because your knowledge, and I know you work with many different types of people and in all needs. So this is a big topic that it really needed your help on.
This is a great topic.
Yeah.
I love having you guys in for sure.
So I want to welcome
Thank you.
Julia Murphy back, the Chief Development Officer with Compass. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here again.
And Michael Riordan, who is the Marketing and Communications Director. And we also were getting into the conversation that you are a trans woman.
That's right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about that. You had mentioned that you started at an early age realizing that you there was something different.
Yep.
Okay, and you had mentioned that you really haven't had a chance at that point. There was nobody you felt comfortable with to talk to.
Yeah. I mean, who do you turn to with that? You know, at that time, it was just nobody in your school was trans. Nobody, you know, I mean, there was just nothing. It was an abstract thought. And I did see somebody on TV once and it made me realize that people exist, you know, transgender people are out there, but certainly where I lived and in my circle, it wasn't around.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
You were growing up in a very liberal area in Massachusetts.
Yeah, Massachusetts is funny. You know, Massachusetts gets a little purple down in the southeast part of it where I am. But yes. Yeah.
You know, so people in other parts of the country must, you know, it was tough for you, but it could be tough for.
It's funny you bring that up.
Grow up.
I think now, you fast forward 30 some odd years and there is so much information out there and there is so much understanding. And, but then you see that there isn't at the same time. And I think of that. I think of the people in the parts of the country that are 30 years in the past, basically. I mean, that's the best way to think about it.
So how did you deal with it? Did you go through a depression?
So like I said, on last week's program, I struggled with it because it was purely a gender identity issue for me. It wasn't a sexual orientation thing. I was a male attracted to women, so I thought everything was fine. I just had these thoughts and this desire, and as I mentioned, I always thought that it would go away. I thought when I got a wife and had kids and the good paying job and all of that these feelings would disappear, and they didn't. And as I got older and I moved from one career to the next, just shifting because I was always just so uncomfortable and I could only make it a certain amount of time before I started to get really down. And now I can say it. At the time I wouldn't have said it, but depressed. And so, it never went away, and it just got worse and worse and worse.
And you weren't able to see anybody at that time. What was the first person you told, and how was it?
Other than my mother, when I was 10, and she just didn't know. I started to express little things, and after, like, when I came out and I started having the conversation with friends and stuff, it's amazing what people will remember. And one of my best friends from high school was like, "Oh my gosh, I remember you asking one time, like, would you guys ever want boobs, or like breasts and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "It was just so weird then, and now I get it." And I was like, "Yeah, I was probing. I was trying to find somebody that felt the same way." What I was really looking for, to tell you the truth, is somebody to say, "Oh yeah, I feel that all the time," but it's not, that's where it starts and ends. But so, yeah, I mean,
But it took you 37 years to actually...
It took me 37 years. And to be completely honest, the way that I talk about it now is that I had a mental situation that was killing me. And I didn't realize it. And I just got into a darker and darker place. And there was the moment where I was going to take my own life. And something happened, and I didn't. And it gave me the opportunity. I mean, when you're that close to that, and you step back from it, it takes something out of you. It's exhausting, and I was just exhausted.
Well said.
And say that again.
Well said.
Okay.
It's so exhausting.
It really is. It's just to like, okay, this is going to happen, and then to step back from that, and and then it was in that moment, the moments after, that I was like, well, what if? Because my thing was, I was always so afraid of losing everything. I was afraid of losing family and friends, and there's such stigma with it.
And you'd be surprised how people react. I mean, there are some people that will react negatively, but the people that really care about you and are understanding, they're the ones that are going to support you, and that's all you really need.
Well, that's it. And that's, to anybody listening who's in that place of fear where you're afraid that you're going to lose everything, taking your own life, that's a guarantee. Yeah. You're going to lose everything. But if you go the other way, if you say, okay, I'm going to explore this, and I'm going to do something about this so that I can exist on this planet in the way that I'm supposed to be, you will be amazed at what is waiting for you.
And sometimes you think, do you really want to be around those people that can't accept you for who you are?
Well, that's it. Yeah.
I have to say, I've worked with a couple of trans women, and actually before high school had even ended for a couple of them. And what I found really interesting, I helped them come out to their mother. In both cases, the two that I'm thinking of, they wanted to talk to their moms first. And so I did all this prepping and made sure that it was going to be a healthy transition, because I didn't want any trauma. I wanted to make sure it was going to be perfect. Well, in both cases, the mom, the boy told the mom, and in both cases the moms were like, okay, well, what about your grades?
Oh, geez.
In both cases that happened. Yeah. So it was kind of a non-issue. Like, okay, that's I don't really care about that. Clean your
Right,
room,
right,
you know,
right.
or it's like you're not going to graduate. So
And
I just
that's
think it's kind of
amazing to
cool.
hear.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
really cool that we're at that place. We're getting to that place.
I think we are, but I think it is worth noting that there are a lot of people who aren't in that place, you know, and there are communities, especially in South Florida, that don't experience that kind of acceptance.
So, Michael, let me ask you this: what would your advice be to someone? And does it? I'm sure different ages would be different approaches. So, you know, being a person that went through this,
Yes.
that had depression, had suicidal thoughts, what would your advice be to somebody right now that's finding themselves?
Okay. The first thing that I say every time, and I don't know if I'm going to use a word here that's triggering, but I would say to people, you're not crazy. This isn't fake. This isn't, you know, this is a real thing. And if you're experiencing it, you know, we can point, you know, medical science can point to reasons why you're experiencing this. So don't doubt yourself is the first thing. The second thing becomes find a qualified professional, mental health professional that can help you.
Yeah.
Because no matter at what stage during a transition, it's a lot. And you're going to need somebody to talk to. You're going to need somebody that's, you know, sitting there listening and giving you advice that's not, you know, even an accepting parent can't play the same role that a mental health
Right.
therapist could.
Yeah.
So that's it. And then from there, that person is going to help you to get to the other places you need to go. And it's a process.
And don't be afraid to talk.
Don't be afraid to talk to somebody about it. And a lot of people don't want to be trans. You know, I mean, for the longest time, for 37 years, I didn't want to be. And now I view it as a gift.
Yeah.
Because of the how well I needed to get to know myself, to actually physically transform my body, to be happy. You know, I'm now at a point in my life where I can't remember who that person was that night that was at the verge.
Yeah.
You know, and that's waiting for people.
Yes, I love that message. It's essential, not just for people who are transitioning, but just for the general public who might be trying to get through a difficult time, that there's growth in when you're in a depressed state. You can use that for an opportunity for growth, for better understanding, for better connection, whatever
Right.
it is. And I love what you just said, and I echo that all the time. So thanks for saying that.
So, Julia,
absolutely.
first of all, before I ask this question, I have to commend you and your sister and your family because, you know, obviously you're working with Compass. Your sister, Catherine, who is incredible, works with NAMI. You're both social worker. She's a social worker too?
She has a liberal arts degree.
Liberal arts,
but
okay.
She's a
But
social worker.
Yeah. And you're both out there helping other people. I mean,
Yeah.
is there something that drew you and your sister to want to give to people and help?
It's interesting. We just did an article together, and I think both of our stories are different, even though growing up in the same house and having the same parents. You know, when I was little, I was in daycare and like aftercare, and they always used to call me Mother Teresa, and I didn't really understand what it meant. I was like, no, that's not me. But, you know, I always stuck up for other people, and I always wanted people to be happy, and it's just in me. Like, it really isn't. Even in college, that's where my husband and I met, and I was teetering with business school, and I started and I was like, this is not for me. Even though I have a business mindset, it was just not for me. And when I went into social work, it just felt right. And being able to work within an organization in the community that is so accepting, and really, if you ask me, Compass has given me way more than I've ever given it to it. And I tell people all the time, being an ally in this community and being accepted and valued and really promoted, it's eye-opening, and it shows me that this community wants people that are advocating for them to make change. And my best thing I can say from my work that I've done is I've helped change allies' minds. I've helped address the heterosexual community in ways that I don't think would have been addressed before. There's a difference between when an LGBTQ person comes into space and when an ally comes in. And I always say the greatest allies have made change, you know, through HIV and AIDS, through even the movement. So when I see my husband and his organization T-Mobile there with a crowd of people promoting Pride, our little puppy, there's no even question. It's the nature of what we do and who we are as people.
So what were you
know?
saying, allies?
Yeah, allies. So you'd be an ally.
Oh, okay.
So anyone that's supportive of the community and really wants to, I think, also address things that come up when you are in spaces that, may be negative towards any community. Really, you're an ally. And I always champion people with that, is not to just sit there, even though it's wrong, say something and help educate people. And they may not want to listen, but at least you did the right thing.
So I just want to get into something on what Michael just addressed as far as finding a counselor that works for you. Now, obviously, people, whether you're depressed, whether you have anxiety, whether you have, and Jen, you could chime in on this too, whether you have bipolar, or you're a veteran, each one really needs a different specialty.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure the LGBTQ also does. Inside the LGBTQ, like if you're lesbian, gay, transgender, is there different counselors that you should work with? Like if someone is gay and going to a counselor, would that counselor still be a good fit for if you're transgender, or?
I think that it depends on the therapist. My advice to anybody when they get a therapist, don't just settle on the first one. To me, it's kind of like a car shopping. I know it sounds weird, but there's no other way to put it. You just can't say this is going to be the therapist for me before you even meet them. And I always say, go to the first session, see how your comfortability level is. Because if you go on and you don't say something, then that's hurting your perspective of therapy and you don't want to go back. And that's the worst thing that could happen. Maybe that person isn't right for you. Maybe they have the expertise, but they just aren't the right fit. You have that comfortability. I think it depends on who you are. I think that talking to people about what your needs are is the first step. Identifying what you need. And just like an advocate for yourself in the medical field, writing down exactly what you need. You need somebody that understands this, this, and this. That's where you're at. And then going and basically interviewing a therapist, asking them the questions, do you know how to deal with this? And meeting them and seeing if they are to somebody that you can talk to. And a lot of people are surprised. You would assume that a gay man wants to go to a gay man. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't want, that's not the whole narrative of the conversation they're having. Their depression, anxiety is not around their relationship and they're accepted. Sometimes it is. And I believe that really finding people that know how to help you navigate that is super important, and we can help that. 211 can help with that. Reaching out to people that you know to help you find the right therapist. So I don't think that there's one person for everything. I think there are people that have specialties and they've been doing this work for a long time. And I think that there's people that know gay men and HIV and they're great at that work. And that is their specialty. And we have people that are great with the transgender community. That's also why we're trying to build this network of therapists. So we have a great referral basis. So we know this is the right person for maybe at least even age range. Because therapists also specialize in ages. So depending on what the need is, they can focus on it. But always my advice is for somebody not to go in thinking this person's going to solve me. I want to go in and help myself by already advocating, having a list of the things that you need before you even walk in that door.
Is co-occurring, and I don't know if that's the right word because that's not a mental health, but for a lot of people that are in that LGBTQ, is alcohol a big issue? Is
yes,
depression?
Substances are a huge issue in our community, and I think there's multiple layers to that. And I think that generationally, there's a shift. Our older LGBT community members had a different experience than the current ones are having, and they had to move to South Florida from their family because their family basically disowned them. The majority of the people that live in South Florida that are 40 and above have been disowned by their families in some aspects. So they came here for a new life. And that's not easy to deal with. And also dealing with coming out at work, coming out to community people. It has shifted, but there's still people I know that are not comfortable with coming out in a workspace. It may be a more conservative workspace. Not all spaces are like this. And people have to remember that. So, alcoholism and substance abuse are very high in our community. In the transgender community, even higher. They're facing challenges that, you can't take your ring off when you go to work, right? Like you can take the picture off of your husband. You may be able to hide it. Not that you want to, but it's a little easier. When you're transgender, you can't hide who you are if you're transitioning. It's right there. You can see somebody identifying and doing the things that they need to do to be a healthier person. So, I really think that
that's a key point, a healthier person.
Yeah.
And that's the key point of it.
Yeah, it is. And I've been through Michael through the majority of her transition at Compass. And when we hired Michael, she was in the beginning, and to see the process and her evolution is so extraordinary. And I think that I'm so grateful for it to be able to help people. And that was one piece that I think I was missing. I've done the work, but I never walked through that process with somebody like that. And it has been extraordinarily profound. So I think the other part of it is watching that.
And at Compass, you have the counselors and for any type of situation. What is your contact number so people could call you?
So it's 561-533-9699. And our website is Compass, COMPAS AFSSGLCC.com.
We've been, AFSP is in the fight with conversion therapy, trying to get that the bill passed to stop it. Can one of you, whoever wants to talk about conversion therapy, what it is, and why it's bad, why we don't need it?
Conversion therapy is a process where a therapist, and I'm on the radio, but I'm using quotation marks when I say therapist, uses a variety of techniques to disabuse somebody of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And it's usually negative reinforcement. I've heard stories of electroshock being used. There's a case in South Africa where a young man died in a conversion therapy camp. And I use the word camp because that's what it was. The behavior and the things that they're subjected to get them to not be gay or lesbian.
So basically,
or
they're
trans.
thinking that. So people through conversion therapy think it's a choice.
I think that's the basic premise from people. Yeah, is that this is a choice, and that whoever is expressing these feelings has made a choice, and we can make them make another choice.
And
do you agree with that, Julia?
I think that they also use a form of religion to make you feel guilty for it, and that is the Bible is the standing voice that you are doing something wrong, and they allow you to feel. So we're talking about how do we become a healthier person, how we are against suicide, right? Well, this is going directly towards that. It's telling you everything that you are and think and feel is wrong to basically through this therapy, we can make that change. I mean, which we've seen that is not true. Right. And our local organization, Palm Beach County Human Rights Council, with the help of Dr. Rachel Needle and Rand Hawk, have been advocating to ban conversion therapy throughout South Florida, and they've had successes, and they focus smallly on municipalities first. And that reasoning being is if you have change within local community, you can get change outside of that. That's really, we always focus on grassroots efforts and then try to expand it from there. So we've seen progress, not everywhere, but we're still fighting that battle.
And isn't there, Jen, research behind showing that it's not a choice, that this is who we are?
Yeah, there is. And another thing, I do extraordinary amount of work just focusing on reducing the shame response in us. Yeah. I feel like a big piece of the work that I do is all about shame and trying to minimize the guilt and all of that stuff about anything. And a conversion therapy would be a full-blown traumatic event that you're instilling shame as a way of creating change. And
absolutely,
it's very disturbing to think that a qualified therapist would think that was an appropriate maneuver.
Well, I think that that's an important distinction to make too, and Julia touched upon this, is that a lot of the people that practice this aren't qualified therapists. No. There's a loophole in the law.
Wow.
Where you can either get a certificate, or if you're acting in a capacity in a religious organization as a counselor in that religious organization, you can, convince people to come in. And the problem with it, there are multiple problems with it, including the fact that it just straight out doesn't work, is that when you have children who are subjected to it involuntarily by their parents, and that's what's being outlawed. And like Julia said, through work from the Human Rights Campaign and others, there are portions of South Florida that have banned the practice for minors.
Yeah, but the thing that drives me crazy is I know there were some bills that were introduced last year, and it never got passed.
No.
And I was talking to some of the state reps, and I'm like, how can this be dropped? I mean, it's something that's so important. We have factual behind it.
Yeah.
And why isn't it moving forward? So
because you're a logical person, you think facts make sense. I mean, that's the first. We link logically.
It's just even being out there as something to ban and bringing awareness to it. I think there'll be less buy-in, and it'll end up fizzling out. It would be great if you had something big to back that up by banning it completely, but. Yeah. But I think that just bringing awareness, because...
Well, again, another thing I want to bring... We only have a couple minutes left, so I just want to get to this last topic real quick. And I didn't know this until last week when I was speaking with Julia's sister, Catherine, from NAMI, about pronouns. Can you talk about how we address people that are transgender and the pronouns and what that is?
Yeah, pronouns for a lot of transgender people are a really big deal, because I think it's really important to understand, and I mentioned this briefly last week, that there is medical proof in science coming out and showing that transgender people's brains are closer in shape and size in certain areas to the gender in which they identify, with which they identify. So for a trans woman like myself, my brain, if you did a scan, it would be closer. There are parts of it that would look female, on the brain scan. So when I say that transgender people are women or are a male, that's really how their brain is. And so when you have pronoun, which is a part of our language, which identifies people based on gender, it can be a really horrible experience for somebody who is in the process of transitioning or has transitioned to be called the opposite pronoun from what they appear. And it is a thing that I experience it all the time. And for your listeners, it's probably difficult listening to my voice, and I look much different. I look like a woman, but my voice outs me immediately. And I'll go to places all the time, and when I approach somebody, they'll say, "Oh, can I help you, ma'am?" Like if you're at a store or something, "Can I help you, ma'am?" I don't get miss anymore, but "Can I help you, ma'am?" And then I'll say, "Yeah," and I'll talk to them, and on my way out, they're like, "Have a great day, sir." And those things switch, and people don't realize it, and it is it is an important thing. So if you don't know, and I know we're running out of time, if you don't know what somebody's pronoun is, ask.
Yeah.
So what's your pronoun?
I actually wanted to bring that up because that goes to stigma, and the more we can bring things like this and talk about it, I think the more we'll break down that stigma, and it'll be more accepted for the people that aren't as accepting as we are, that are more naive, I should put. But I really appreciate you guys coming in, Julia Murphy and Michael Riordan from Compass Community Center. Give your number one more time.
You want to do it?
561-533-9699. All of a sudden, I forgot. I was worried I was going to forget it.
And again, they help everybody in the LGBTQ community. I want to have you guys on again, and I want to get like some kind of a panel actually with other organizations, and have. I think it'd be really great to do that. So we'll talk about that again.
Anytime.
Jen Hoskin-Tomko, thank you so much again for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. And again, if you're in crisis, call the 1-800-273-TALK number or 211. Or actually, Michael just told me there is a transgender hotline too, which is 877-565-8860. So thank you very much for giving us that. And thank you very much, and have a great week.
Thank you for having us.
And that's a Real Convo, bringing hope and awareness to those affected by suicide and mental health. Tune in next Saturday at noon to the Real Convo. Business Services for You LLC is a full-service accounting and financial services firm. Their goal is to provide value to each of their clients by identifying their individual needs and goals. Each client, whether an individual or a business, is given the close personal attention they deserve. They hold their services out as fiduciaries, always acting in their client's best interest. Their staff has over 120 years of combined experience in accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, tax, and financial consulting services. Let them show you what they can do for you by contacting them for a free consultation at 561-376-2564 or info@bizsvc4u.com.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I just left psychotherapy.
Oh, wow. You are in psychotherapy? But you seem so put together.
Ha, thanks. But that takes work. So I go to Clarity Health Solutions in Jupiter. Just walking through the door feels like a retreat. When I'm feeling nervous, angry, sad, or overwhelmed, I can always see my psychotherapist for unbiased feedback, healthy support, and skill building.
Clarity Health Solutions in Jupiter has a great atmosphere, caring staff, and seasoned clinicians, and even a psychiatrist. They believe that therapy is an investment for the future, and they cherish being a part of your journey. So, grow with clarity. You can call them at 561-781